Well, hello, guys and gals. Welcome to Miyagi Mornings, episode 89. And that means we're only a couple weeks away from a centennial episode, 100 episodes. That's pretty cool. I have to say, most content creators that start out something new generally don't do 100 of them. They kind of fizzle out before then. This has been really fun, really well received. And as long as y'all keep listening, I'll keep doing them. And remember, if you're listening to this on YouTube or Odyssey, which is better than YouTube, because you can earn crypto there, that's what we're going to talk about today, you can also catch this as a podcast in the Miyagi Mornings Weekly Recap. And that will continue as well, though there may be some structural changes to the way that I release podcasts after I get back from vacation next month. I'm going to try to give myself a little more time to spend time with my grandkids and all. And that's in a roundabout way what we're going to talk about today, thinking about as you get older, and how does crypto become part of your retirement strategy? And we're going to do that from a question that doesn't look like it has anything to do with it. The question that I got today was basically, I run a little brick and mortar store type thing, or I think it was an online store, but it sells physical goods. One way or another, it's a physical product. But this really applies to any business. The basic question was, should I offer a discount if a person is willing to pay me in cryptocurrency? The answer in its fundamental sense is yes, you should. Yes, you should. However, there's a lot of things and a lot of moving parts, and it depends there. And I want to go through them with you, and I want to make a case for why this makes so much sense and why I've been doing it forever. I mean, and once I understood what was going on here, I'm like, are you damn wrong if you discount you paying in cryptocurrency? The first question you have to ask yourself, though, is how much operational expense do you need out of a sale? And this really will fall down on, what percentage of your customers are going to take the discount? If like 5% of your customers are going to take the discount, and you can't take 5% of your sales and kind of set them aside like they did, like basically eat it and put that money into long-term hold, you need to raise your price. You're not making enough money. If you're going to end up with half the people, taking the discount, you have to think about things a little bit harder and how you're going to manage it, how you're going to handle it. Because if you're getting half your sales and you have any significant overhead or just plain living expenses that need to come out of your business, then you're going to need to think about things a little bit more because you're going to have to take some of that back into cash. So then you might want to think about how much discount or how you basically do that. So that's going to be your first thing you have to kind of skin. So, I'll give it to you this way. Let's say I was a handyman and I did work for people, because that's what handymans do. And of course, that person says, well, I want you to do this little job, and there's going to be a couple $100 worth of parts in the job, and I'm going to charge them $400 in labor. Follow that? What I would do if I were that person as a handyman, I would say, hey, do you dabble in crypto at all? You willing to pay me in crypto? And you're going to find some portion of people, yeah, I'm going to cover it, I'm paying crypto. Okay, so then what I would say is, well, I want 200 in cash or check, or 220. Most handymans, if they're smart, you put 20 points on parts. If you're going to pick them up for the person, that takes time and effort, etc. So, 20, 25% on the parts, and I need that in cash. And I'll do the labor portion at a discount of 10%, 50%, whatever you want to do if you pay in cryptocurrency. That's another way to do it, because the outflow, like your labor is spent, and that, if you look at the thumbnail in today's video, it is from George Clawson's book, The Richest Man in Babylon, and I'm going to read it so I get it exactly right when I'm quoting somebody. I found the road to wealth when I decided that a part of all I earned was mine to keep. You just need to see the money you take in cryptocurrency as that form of money. This is why I think crypto has been so strong, and especially Bitcoin. And Bitcoin is where the majority of your holdings should be. There's some altcoins that are interesting, but the majority of your holdings should be in Bitcoin. If you're doing what you call a capital sweep, where you have excess money, and I don't want this to get eroded by inflation. I just want it to go away and be there for a long time in the hardest digital money that exists. That goes into Bitcoin, right? And what I love about Bitcoin is people don't want to spend it. People don't want to spend it. For the first time in the history of this country, certainly in the history of this country that I've witnessed in my alive years, people are actually saving money for real. Crypto's making people understand that there's a value in this. And part of what you need to understand looking at crypto, if you're one of these people that still doesn't understand it, is that the way they've designed money from the Federal Reserve is so that you will spend it, and so that you will borrow, and so that you will spend money you don't have, and so that you will work forever. It was designed to make you a hamster in a wheel that has to run for his little nibblers every day, and that every day you have to run a little bit harder to get the same amount of nibblers with a little bit less calories in them. This reverses that. That's why we do this. So that's the first slide. Next is, which cryptos should you be willing to accept? The answer is all of them, sort of, maybe, but maybe not. So here's how I do this. If the crypto you want to pay me in is some crypto I have no interest in, I don't want to hold it, I don't want anything to do with it, but it's on any of the exchanges I have accounts at, especially what's called a no KYC exchange, which means my social security number and government issued ID and all is not on that account. If it's there and I can convert it to Bitcoin, I'll take it. If I can convert it to Bitcoin, like the two that I'm really interested in holding right now are Bitcoin and Pirate Chain. Because Pirate Chain is totally private. If I can convert it into either one of those, yeah, I'll take it. Now, so this is where you get opportunities to upsell as well. I'm going to kind of combine that in this bullet point. So I sell a membership for $50. I offer a deep discount if you'll pay me in cryptocurrency, right? But you got to buy 3 years instead of 1 year to get it. So you can either pay $50 a year or $100 for 3 years. Now, I have no big material cost in the delivery of that service. I don't have, I have a hosting bill and all that. It's a big hosting bill. When you run a podcast with 250,000 downloads, my hosting bill's over $800 a month to run a dedicated box and bandwidth and all that. So there is a cost, but that cost is pretty fixed. If 100 extra people join that membership program next month, my costs don't go up with it. There's no physical product to ship. So that lets me put in that large discount. And I do that specifically because especially when that person wants to pay in, Ethereum or Dash or whatever, I want them to do the $100 because that's going to meet the minimum deposit threshold on most of the accounts or most of the exchanges, so that I can just give them an address to an exchange account and immediately flip it into something I want to hold long term. So you want to think that way too, because people are like, well, they wanted to pay in blah 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 coin, and I don't really want that. Do you have an exchange? Yeah. Is it on there? Yeah. Will it meet the minimum deposit requirement? Yeah. Okay, do it. So that's how I handle that. How should you take crypto? Again, it depends. If you are running a really kind of slicked up e-commerce store and you sell a lot of stuff, you should probably use some sort of a plug-in. There's a lot of them. I don't know anything about them, so I won't recommend any. I can't remember the name of the one, but we did find one. I had a freaking bug in my ear there, but I didn't get him. Yeah, I can't remember the name of it, but I'll see if I can find it. If I can find it, I'll add it to the resources I already have in the notes for this episode. And but you might want to do that because of just ease. Like you ship 20 different products, 30 different products, 50 different products. You don't have time to manually touch it. If you sell one or two or three things, you can do what I do, which is they fill out a form for an order. They say what crypto they want to pay with. They get an email from me saying, hey, you can either do 1 month or 1 year or 3 years, and here's an address. And then it's very, very private. You see how that works? So it's up to you how you do it. There's lots of ways to do it. You can just get a wallet like Jax or Coinami or Exodus or any good wallet to get started. Just generate an address, give it to your customer. You don't need any high-tech shit, and in some ways maybe it's better if you don't have it. However, maybe you do want this transaction to be completely public. You do want to pay taxes on it, maybe just because of the way you run your business. You may need to make sure that you do. But maybe you can use this discount to your advantage. Now, how would we do that? Well, we have to understand the rules of the game so that we can rape them, not break them. All right? So the rules of the game say that if you send me a Bitcoin or a half a Bitcoin or a tenth of a Bitcoin or a hundredth of a Bitcoin, whatever it is, that is revenue to me, even though they don't call it money. They call it a security or a commodity, right? It's property. It's not money. It's like barter is how it's handled. So let's say I'm selling something and my cost of goods sold on it is $100, and I normally sell it for like $130. Now understand, cost of goods sold might not all be real costs if you know how to work the side of the tax thing. So when we look at cost of goods sold, we have a direct cost of goods sold. That means the direct expenses against it. But then overall, you can pull back and look at the total expenses in your operation and, a burden cost of goods sold, because that includes like the building you work out of, and what's the deduction for that. And you might figure out that, in reality, I make $50 on this, but on paper, by the time this is all said and done with, I really make like 30, because some of the expenses are somewhat phantom expenses. Well, whatever that number is, if you can offer the discount where it comes in below that number as a sale. So let's say by the time it's all said and done, on paper, you're making $100 a unit. If you sell, even though you're really making 120, all right, you see how that works? And if you don't understand that, then look into it and figure out how it works. But even if you just really made, you need to make 100 to break even. If you really believe in something like Bitcoin, we'll sell it for $95. You've lost $5 on paper. And then you put that Bitcoin away. A portion of all you earn is yours to keep forever. You just lost $5, but you got $95 worth of Bitcoin. How often can you afford to do that? You know your numbers on the back end of your business. But that's one aspect. You could sell at cost. Again, paper cost. Not cost as in you lost money or you broke even. In reality, when you look at the total burden labor of your business, and you should know this number, how much money do you really make and how much money do you have to actually pay tax on? You could sell for the exact cost of the money you pay tax on. It's a net zero. And now you've put money away for long term in a hard asset, because that's what Bitcoin is. Even those that don't understand it, it is. Another thing to look at is Bitcoin's annualized return over any 5-year period is 200%. 200%. So if you're taking money in that you're like, I can put that money away and not look at it for at least 5 years. You're insane if you don't offer some sort of a discount to incentivize that type of money coming in. Because again, not only do you have the appreciation gain possibility, but you have this asset that I promise you, it will be harder for you to part with than dollars. Again, the government and the Federal Reserve and the banks designed dollars so that we would mentally be willing to part with them easily. Bitcoin was designed so that in time, when people began to understand it, it would be difficult for us mentally to part with it. Got it? So it's going to be easier for you to save it, and if it earns what it did before, it's a home run the first year. Even if you have a down cycle, by the time you get the second year, those two together, it's a home run. But let's be conservative. I like to be conservative with economic forecasts and predictions. I am really good with economic modeling with Excel. I tend to be incredibly accurate with my projections being this is the best or this is the worst case scenario. Usually my predictions are exceeded, right? Or if I'm predicting the bad, they don't quite get as bad as I'm saying they are. I like to be conservative. I don't know how you could be more conservative with Bitcoin and say, well, let's just assume over the next 10 years it's going to do 1/8 what it's done since inception. Well, that's 25% return. 25% on long-term or forever money. Because I personally think Bitcoin's going to turn into forever money. I personally think most people that hold Bitcoin into retirement will never sell it. There will be ways to generate income from that resource and never pay tax on the base itself. It will go away and never, ever, ever get spent. I know that seems crazy, but when you start looking at things like what Michael Saylor's talking about, that makes sense. I have a link in the video notes today. It's a long interview with him. It's called an Economics Masterclass. It's the best interview ever. I recommend you listen to it multiple times until you understand what this genius is talking about. But even with a 1/8 of historical, it makes sense to give discounts and to think differently about Bitcoin than fiat currency in a big way. I do have some resources for you today. I got that Michael Saylor interview in the video notes. I've got the BPSAA, which I think is something y'all need to learn more about if you don't know about it. They're basically a blockchain privacy organization working with Pirate, working with Komodo, working with quite a few other really amazing people to develop technologies to the point where you'll be able to do business with other people completely privately, and there'll be nothing anybody can do about it. We're talking about distributed VPNs. So I am using a blockchain and a cryptocurrency to pay for a VPN service that constantly changes based on my choices. And there's no reservoir of information for a data leak of customers' information when the customer was paying for a VPN that was supposed to be private and the VPN company was keeping the customer's information, because that shit has happened. You really need to look into the BPSAA. I really think that they're the game changer in all things, and they're going to make it possible with Pirate and the bridge technology and the atomic swaps on the back end to use any currency to any currency and have it be private. And that's amazing. And then if you want to get started with cryptocurrency, the easiest way I know is Coinbase. You set it up. That is all KYC. But if you're going to buy crypto for fiat, you're going to do KYC. And as we talked about today, there may be reasons that you want some of your crypto totally above board with the government, because buying crypto does not incur up tax with it. Okay, this is something I think people understand. You can go to Coinbase, buy $10,000 worth of Bitcoin today, and it can be worth $20,000 tomorrow or next year or whatever. Coinbase could send a picture of you in a Bitcoin t-shirt with your portfolio in your hand petting your dog, and you owe no tax dollars. You bought it, you didn't sell it, you didn't trade it. Okay, long term, we're going to have ways we're going to be able to borrow against our Bitcoin. We're going to be able to loan our Bitcoin. That already exists, but it's going to be a lot better organized, a lot better guarantees. And this is what's going to enable people with large holdings in retirement to have cash flow and no tax consequence against them. And that is badass. And so there, if you have hidden Bitcoin, that may be a little more complicated. So don't think that all of it needs to be squirreled away. You just need to be protected. That's security. That's not privacy. And then I have the 3 wallets I recommend: Jax, Coinami, and Exodus. Those are all great starting wallets. I use Jax, but it's because I started with it. If I was picking one today, it would probably be Exodus or Coinami. So I have all 3 of those. I have some security advice here at the end. If you're going to get a wallet on your phone, especially when you're going to get a mobile wallet, this is really, really important. Do not go to the freaking Google Play Store or the App Store. You're relying on the Google and the Apple employees and all to actually be correct when they approve an app. And sometimes they just approve apps for no good reason. But other times they seem to approve apps that are not real, that can steal from you. Go to Jax.io, or go to Coinami.com, or go to Exodus.com. In your browser, on your phone, select to download the mobile wallet from the actual website that the actual company that makes the wallet hosts. It will open up the app in the App Store either way, and that way you know you're dealing with the genuine article. I've heard of some people being scammed, specifically with Jax out of the Google Play Store, I think is where that happened. Go to the source. At that, we are done. We'll have one more episode tomorrow, and I promise, I don't know what it's going to be about yet, but it won't be about cryptocurrency. I try to limit those to 1 a week on Miyagi Mornings. But guys, gals, those of you that are like, I don't want to know, Bitcoin, you're ignoring the biggest economic shift in history. And for the first time ever, consumers can front-end the institutions. The institutions are coming big time in ways you can't even begin to fathom yet. The amount of money that is about to pour into this thing will boggle the mind. You have time, but the clock is ticking. Take care, guys. I'll catch you later.